Hello and welcome back to the Dugout podcast. We have a wee bonus episode for you today. And ding dong, the witch is dead. Wilfried Nancy has been sacked as Celtic manager. And yeah, I'm just going to read out the club statement for you to kick us off. And then I will obviously bring in my co host, Ethan. Club statement: Wilfried Nancy leaves Celtic. Celtic Football Club today announces that it has decided to terminate the contract of manager Wilfried Nancy with immediate effect. The club thanks Wilfried for his efforts and wishes him and his family well for the future. Wilfried's assistants, Kwame Ampadu, Jules Gugan, and Maxime Chalier, will also be leaving the club, and they take with them our good wishes. The club can also confirm that Paul Tisdale has left his position as head of football operations. We thank Paul for the contribution he has made to that role. A further update will be provided to supporters as soon as is practical. And that update has been provided, Ethan, because Martin O'Neill is now the interim boss till the end of the season, it looks like, with Sean Maloney and as his assistant, along with Mark Fotheringham and Stephen McManus. So, yeah, massive news coming out today, prompting us to hop on here. What's your initial reactions?
The initial reaction of Wilfried Nancy being sacked was actually made it come as a surprise that it was one of surprise. I didn't think the Celtic board would act as quick as they have done. I know it was a few days after the game now, a couple of days, but I think he had to go. You seen the reaction from even players like Luke McCowan and what he had to say. We touched on this in the weekend's recap yesterday. So yeah, I think he had to go, and I think the Celtic fans are probably just glad that it's been done quickly, and then obviously as soon as he was announced that he would be removed, I think everybody sort of guessed that it would be Sean Maloney or Martin O'Neill or both of them that would be returning, and I think that's maybe another surprise for me that I thought it was just going to be Sean Maloney this time around, but Martin O'Neill's back again, and I think that'll bring the Celtic fans a lot of confidence and joy. Obviously, what he done as recently as just over a month ago. What was it, 33 days? He was last in charge before Wilfried Nancy came in. Won 7 of his 8 games and was a dramatic improvement from what Wilfried Nancy done in his 8 games. So yeah, I think the Celtic fans will be happy with that, and I didn't see Celtic going in back into the market for another new full-time manager after the what happened with Wilfried Nancy ultimately, and now they'll need to get a few players in because, as we know, the squad isn't in the best place. But I think they'll have a better chance with Martin O'Neill and Sean Maloney in charge than they would have done keeping hold of Wilfried Nancy.
Yeah, there is a lot of things to unpack there, isn't there? Where are they going to go in the transfer market? What is the situation for, the future of Celtic? But I think they had to think about the short term, and um, I'll be honest as well, Ethan. I was a bit surprised. Um, Also, I thought the board were just going to dig their heels in and let it get exponentially worse. Let let him have a January window. Obviously, you've probably seen the news. Columbus Crew centre back Stephen Moreira was pictured at the game on Saturday. So, obviously that's Wilfried Nancy's old side. So you're thinking, oh, maybe they're going to give him the window. Maybe they're going to give him the chance to bring in these players. 5'9" centre back, by the way. So, yeah, I think we all know how that would have went for Nancy. Just continuing on, they've put the man out of his misery. He is the shortest reigning permanent Celtic manager of all time, with his reign lasting only 33 days. And Ethan, we saw probably the worst Rangers manager of all time at the start of the season. Do you think Wilfried Nancy is taking that crown at Celtic?
Yeah, well, it might be crazy to say looking at the statistics of their wins and losses, but I would still take Wilfried Nancy. I don't know why. Maybe it's because in some moments of Wilfried Nancy you could see sort of
No, I'm
potential,
not.
but at the
I
end of
don't.
the
I
day,
don't mean Wilfried Nancy over. I just meant in terms of. Do you think he's the worst Celtic manager ever? That's what I mean.
oh right, of course, yeah, completely. I thought you were pairing or debating the two. I think we already had this debate, and then we said we'd give Wilfried Nancy more time. He's had more time, and yeah, I think he's certainly in the same breath as Russell Martin and Crazy. Like they both come in the same season, and somehow both teams are in a title race, and yeah, there's just been a crazy season across the board, and yeah, hopefully it continues into the second half, and I can see it continuing um, with how it's went, how both clubs are sitting. Obviously, you've got Hearts who are still leading
Yeah, I
the
was about
title
to
race.
say Derek McInnes and Cole must be looking at this, laughing their arses off. Excuse my French, but they must be. Tony Bloom must be rubbing his hands together, thinking back to that comment he made all the way back in the summer, and going, "Oh, you all laughed at me, but now look at us. I mean,
Yeah,
Hearts are in
well,
prime position."
possibly, but I also think, no pun intended, Celtic sort of excusing the Frenchman, will not have pleased Hearts or Rangers. I think they much would have rathered, as the rest of the league would have, to have Wilfried Nancy in place for a little bit longer and for him to drag Celtic further down than he already has. And I think maybe with what Martin O'Neill done in his recent stint, it'll give no, I wouldn't say fear from the other teams, but a lot more respect than what Wilfried Nancy would have gained. And I think that's where this is all sort of summed up, regardless of Wilfried Nancy's coaching background and the success he's in the MLS. He just doesn't command the same respect from anyone, I don't think, as Martin O'Neill did in his stint, and that's why Martin O'Neill was successful. That's why I also thought it would be a really big part, really big importance, sorry, that Martin O'Neill would be part of the coaching staff this time around, because if it was just Sean Maloney, then you'd maybe have the concerns over you lack somebody who's got that real character and respect.
Also,
Uh,
as well, he's not super successful in the dugout himself. I mean, he's got loads of
yeah,
experience, with the Belgian national team, but his stint at Hibs wasn't successful, you could say. So, yeah, I would probably be, if I was a Celtic supporter, if it was Maloney, I'd be a bit like, I'm glad Nancy's gone, but but Martin O'Neill's a real a good appointment, and you know, I think you should just be happy that he probably was gracious enough to come back.
yeah,
He loves the supporters and he loves the club itself so much that
yeah,
he came back despite what looked like got pushed out the first time, in favour of what has been a disaster class under Wilfried Nancy. So fair play to Martin O'Neill, and he does, I think he does sort of bring that steadiness, that calmness. He has that character. He's a leader. He's got pedigree at Celtic, not just at Celtic. He's been a successful manager, a massively successful player as well. He's high up on the football pedestal, and he does command respect. And he has someone that you do want sort of leading your club into the future, even if it is only for the short term.
yeah, exactly that. And I think we all know that Sean Maloney was probably behind the modern day tactics of the first stint. But as you said, Martin O'Neill's he's the boss. He's the guy who faces the press. He's the guy who speaks to the players before the match. He's the motivator, the man manager, whatever you want to call it. And yeah, I think, as you said, it is because it is gracious of him to come back, because I didn't expect him to. I thought he would want to be backed and have assurances that maybe he could be in contract until the end of next season or something like that. But at the drop of a hat, he's ready to turn up and be the manager for Celtic again. And I think that obviously puts him in um, greater manager in the Celtic fans' eyes. He'll be hoping that it goes well, mind you, because if it doesn't go well, then maybe it'll flip the other way, and his legacy will be tarnished a little bit, but I don't see that being the case. I think regardless of what he does between now and the end of the season, I think
I think
he'll still
what
be a
he's
Celtic legend.
just what he's inherited has, you know, given him all the sort of grace period in the world, I think, and also he can't be as bad. He's already done it this season. Same amount of games, won 7 of them, by the way, as opposed to Wilfried Nancy losing 6 of them. And the wins he did get, one of them was last minute against 10 men Aberdeen, the other one against the worst side in the division. So, a stark contrast. I think I think Martin O'Neill will start just winning games again. He might not bring the league back to Celtic. He might not win the Scottish Cup or whatever, but he'll do enough to sort of steady the ship going into the next season. Because I think that the fact the league is still there for Celtic and Rangers is kind of crazy. But if because usually if one of them were on their game, it would be a write off, and it's focusing on the next season. But Martin O'Neill has the opportunity also to further etch himself into Celtic folklore. The guy who came in and came back after getting booted, after getting shown the door in favour of this guy who ruined the club even further. He comes back, knight in shining armour and all that, and he could bring a league title and a Scottish Cup to Celtic. So he has that opportunity, but I think the Celtic fans would be happy if he just did. Well, maybe not happy, but they would be happy for him, I guess, that if he came back and he just steadied the ship rather than expecting so much of him, because like I said earlier, he commands that respect, and the Celtic fans are willing to give him the opportunity to fail.
Yeah, and that's that. And I think you made the point there about even though Celtic and Rangers have still toiled at large parts of the season, well, for most of, if not all of the season in their terms, but really struggled in parts of the season, and they're still in the conversation for a title race, shows how much really needs to happen for a team outside of Celtic and Rangers to win the Scottish Premiership title. It's why we've not seen it happen for a very long time, and some people expected that we might never see it again. So we're in a historic season so far, I think. For
Yeah, unprecedented times for you and me.
yes, certainly, and yeah, I've seen a few people actually saying today, Scottish football fans, not Celtic fans, saying that, oh well, that'll be Celtic going to win the league now because Martin Neal's in charge. But I can't see it being anywhere close to being that easy, and I still it doesn't change who my favourites for the league are. I still think Hearts are the favourites at the minute and deserve to be so until Celtic or Rangers or Motherwell or Hibs improve enough to show me otherwise. But just what I probably, before we wrap it up, quickly touch on Paul Tisdale being removed or leaving, whatever Celtic brand it as. We were obviously joking about him yesterday's episode. But yeah, I think that's another one that had to happen. I don't really know how he found himself in that position in the first place.
The football doctor killed the patient. So I don't know how you could have seen him in the job any longer.
Yeah, exactly that, and just a puzzling one that will obviously go down in this Celtic board's history and this history of this season for the Celtic board, and why maybe the Celtic fans are so disappointed and angry. Actually, I would use the word, and obviously they'll need to reappoint
I think
someone for that role as well.
angry's a bit of an
Understatement.
understatement.
Yeah.
Yeah, unreserved fury coming from a lot of the Celtic fans about him and Wilfried Nancy, and obviously one of the main players in bringing in Wilfried Nancy. And yeah, he just looked like he didn't really know what he was doing. I think he was on record as saying as well Celtic weren't one of the top 100 clubs in the world. at one point, and that actually got fact checked, and he got statistically proven wrong. Um, so, not a guy that you would have wanted in the club any longer, and I'm sure a lot of Celtic fans are just as happy that he's away along with Nancy.
Yeah, exactly that. And yeah, I think two appointments that just never should have been made in the first place. At least with Wilfried Nancy, you could kind of see there was some sort of he won stuff in the MLS, and I know we laugh at the MLS sometimes, but I can see that maybe why that they went down that path. Obviously, now and looking at it in hindsight, looks like a terrible appointment, and it has been a terrible appointment, should I say? But yeah, Celtic will just need to go again, and the league title's still there to be won. The Scottish Cup's still there to be won, but no matter what the Celtic board have done today, they'll still come under massive pressure from the Celtic fans, and that will not change probably until they're no longer at the football club.
Yeah. Just before we finish off, Ethan, I just want to touch on this. We spoke about it briefly with the likes of Stephen Moreira being at the game. Julian Araujo's obviously been brought in. Where do you think they go with transfers? Do they let Martin O'Neill and Sean Maloney sort of, bring in players to their liking? Obviously, Tisdale's out the door, so, it's up to Michael Nicholson, who's not got the greatest track record either, and so it's going to be a very, very interesting January window.
Yeah, I think it was going to be interesting regardless. I think Celtic, they surely they know what areas they need to sign. Well, I say surely, maybe I'm placing too much faith in them.
I think
I
we've
think
got past trusting that the Celtic board know what they need to do at this point.
Yeah, I think we actually have. Well, I think obviously they need a striker, and then maybe they need a. Let me think about the squad now. I don't know. Maybe a winger, probably a winger, definitely a winger, and then maybe a right central defender. But how the players have been performing the last few weeks and maybe months, or a month under Wilfried Nancy, then you could say they need a player in every position. But we'll obviously see how they
Goalkeeper?
all goalkeeper. Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's one I forgot about somehow. Yeah, that would be one that they would need to sign. Although I still don't see them doing that. The fact that Kasper Schmeichel's not been even taken out of the team yet, apart from that game he missed at Livingston because he had an injection, I think it was. So yeah, I don't see that really being a position Celtic sign this January anyway. Maybe one for the summer, but I think they should. But Celtic should and Celtic will is completely different.
Yeah, absolutely. I think okay, so that'll do it for our little impromptu episode today. Thank you to everyone for watching and listening. Thank you for your support on yesterday's video. If you haven't seen it already, make sure to go check it out. We go over all the weekend's action as usual. I'm sorry to everyone if you wanted to listen to it on Spotify because our resident producer is away on holiday this week. Me and Ethan are a bit of technological Neanderthals, and we couldn't manage to get the audio onto the Spotify. So hopefully this one should be a little bit easier. So we'll try we'll try for this one. But yeah, make sure to check everything out. Like and subscribe. Leave your comments. Leave your thoughts about Nancy, Martin O'Neill, Paul Tisdale, Sean Maloney, all that stuff. Go to the TikTok. The recent Daily Tactics has been uploaded. So if you want to get across all the rest of the news, transfers, incomings and outgoings, have a look at that also, and check out the Twitter as well, at the Dugout 2024. Thank you and goodbye.